Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I am DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
On every episode of Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're playing Dungeon Clawler. That's right, I said Clawler. And F-ZERO GX on the GameCube thing, on this Nintendo Switch thing.
That thing,
plus, we're still, we're still racing around in Mario Kart World.
650 episodes of this show. It's finally time to talk about a real video game this week.
Mario Kart World.
No, get that out of here. I don't want to see that anymore. All about F-Zero from here on out.
Oh. I've talked about F-Zero before. When that F-Zero 99 thing came out, I've talked about that.
Don't talk about F-Zero 99. I mean, that's fine, but it's no F-Zero GX. GX is where you want to be.
GX is the sweet spot in F-Zero games, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, some people like F-Zero X, and F-Zero X is fine. But, man, nothing quite measures up to F-Zero GX on the Nintendo GameCube.
The G stands for quality.
Yes. Is that right?
The G stands for good.
Yeah, that's how you know.
F-Zero Good X.
F-Zero, yeah. They're like, well, what's wrong with F-Zero X? Oh, it wasn't good enough.
No, I had to put some good in it.
Yeah. This is a terrible bit. What's going on?
We're committed, though. People like our commitment.
They love it, yeah.
Yeah. We get letters all the time. Anyways, how are things? Happy summer. It's hot.
Happy summer, yeah. How's that? Has your life changed following the Switch 2? Is your life as different as you were hoping it would be?
I've not touched my Switch 1.
What? Okay. I have to settle down. I thought you were going to say you haven't touched it in 2 weeks.
Oh, no.
The Switch 1. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's neglected. I really should do something with it while it still has value to someone.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I feel a little bad about it because I loved my OLED and took it everywhere with me. It's been around the world. But, since June 5th, I've not touched it, not laid hands on it.
I think I'm just going to put mine on, like, bedroom duty. So I'm sure there's some Switch 1 game, like that Mascot Agency game that I was playing. I can continue on the Switch 1.
A Switch in every room.
Yeah. I have heard, and don't take my word for this because I haven't confirmed this, that cloud saves work between the two platforms. So theoretically, if this is true, I could play a game I could play a Switch 1 game rather on the Switch 2, and through the miracle of cloud saves, pick it up again on the Switch 1 in a completely different room.
It's the dream of the Wii U fully realized.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Is that the Wii U's dream? Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah, just take it anywhere. You're unshackled from the television.
Anywhere as long as you're within 5 feet of your television.
Yeah, yes, as long as you've got that Wii U repeater that probably didn't actually exist. But I like it's rare that I had the opportunity to really take advantage of cloud saves in games. Like I feel like the first time where was a big deal to me was Infinity Nikki, because it's just on every platform. But now with the Switch 2, I can now live the dream of Promise Mascot Agency all over my apartment.
Excellent. Yeah, I've not done a lot of that. I have a distinct memory of at some point, because I played a majority of Animal Crossing New Horizons on my Switch Lite. But every now and then I would want to play it on the TV, which the Lite doesn't do. So I would have to upload my island to using the island recovery tool or whatever it was on the Switch. And then download
that's a lot of work.
It was not worth it, honestly. The first time I saw Animal Crossing on my big screen TV, I was like, holy cow, after playing 100 hours of it on my Switch Lite.
Oh, wow.
That was quite a revelation. But no, I still went immediately back to playing it on the Lite after that. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of experience sort of bouncing back and forth with saves. But I think I've read what you've said is that you can share saves between Switch 1 and Switch 2. In fact, I think that's what the transition tool essentially is for the Switch to Switch 2. Is it's just loading a memory of all of your game titles so that you can download them again, and then your status in all of those games to the cloud, and then you just download it onto the Switch 2 once you get hooked up.
Yeah. For some reason, probably because, we're dealing with Nintendo here, I just I wasn't ready to rule out the possibility that, like, oh yeah, once you've played your game on the Switch 2, it will just be, like, unrecognizable, or, like, your save data will not be usable on the Switch 1. But by some accounts, it still is. So that's a nice surprise.
Yep. I mean, there is still that brief list of games that don't work on the Switch 2. So if you're playing any of those, well, the last week was the Gex trilogy came out. All 3 original Gex puzzle platformer games from when was that? The 90s, were re-released into one collection by Limited Run, and it doesn't work on the Switch 2. They have not been able to figure out how to make it compatible yet, and Limited Run asked Nintendo to take it down from sale in the eShop because it was pissing people off.
I mean, you've had 30 years to play those Gex games. Do we really need them on the Switch 2?
I thought it was cool to have them all in one place. I would like to play them again. I enjoyed those in college. But I mean, no rush. I was not one of the angry people last week, but just it is a bit of an oddity that
how angry were people? I mean, I guess if it just came out, then that's an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, all those Gex fan waiting in line for that game to come out.
Yep. But yeah, so there's a reason to have a vanilla Switch somewhere in your house, but I've not used mine in a couple weeks. I probably should unload it.
Or just put it in a different room in your house.
Yeah. I'll save it for when the battery dies in the Switch 2, which is often.
Yes, it should be any minute now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've noticed that playing Mario Kart World online, doing the knockout races, which are it's basically the Fortnite mode. It drops 4 people off the gameplay circuit after at certain milestones throughout the course of the race until it's just the final 4 trying to race for the finish line. I know I'm explaining to our listeners.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just nodding. You're
agreeing, yeah. Those are pretty long games, anyways, because you're basically doing a bunch of the courses threaded together. But yeah, one game of that online against 23 other people is 7% of my battery.
Ooh, that's not great.
No, it's a pretty big chunk. So yeah, you can only get a certain number of races in before you're down into the 20s and it starts to freak out on you. Like, you must charge this soon. Hook it up to a charger.
Do you have the brightness turned up all the way or something like that?
I have auto brightness turned on, so.
Man, using more of the CPU to determine how bright the screen should be, that sounds like a bad idea.
Maybe that's probably it, yeah. Yeah. I'm also using the battery saver mode that only allows it to charge to 90%. Because apparently that extra 10% kills your battery life. So I think that is limiting, at least by one race, my ability to play as long as I would like to sometimes at least on Mario Kart. But I said it last week, I'll say it again. The battery life is the biggest deal breaker so far on the Switch 2.
Yeah.
I guess not deal breaker. It's the biggest bummer thus far on the Switch 2. They still got a deal. They still got my money.
They still got it. You've still got one. So
yeah,
worked out well for them. I feel like those knockout races in Mario Kart, like when you're down to the final 4, it could be more dramatic. Like it should chop off like the 4th one. And so you're like down to 3 and then 2. Because once you get down to the final 4, it just turns into any other Mario Kart race where there are 4 people. And it's just like all 4 of them get to finish. But what if it was more like Fortnite, like you were saying, and there's just like a wall of fire that suddenly starts chasing you. And you see that 4th place player get eliminated. And then it's like, it's coming for 3rd place.
Yep.
See who can stay ahead of the wall the longest.
Just watching all of your friends just get raptured in the middle of the game.
Yes. I just feel like in the current format, it's so anticlimactic compared to all the other eliminations that have taken place in the race up to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. That is I maybe I've mentioned this before. And I apologize if I'm just sort of repeating myself from previous episodes. That is by far my favorite thing in Mario Kart World thus far. It is when I play alone online, couple of races before bed or whatever. That's the mode I immediately go to. It's tons of fun.
I can't explain, I can't really explain why it's so much more interesting than just the standard Grand Prix mode. Because a lot of the time, I'm okay at Mario Kart. I'm not in great danger of being eliminated until it gets down to the last 8 or so. Like, we did a few rounds of that in our game night last week.
Yeah.
And, well, that was different because there were a bunch of humans involved. Maybe they're just better than the computer players. But there are a few cases where I was just like, oh, no. I am like 9, or like the 9th player, and we're coming up on the like 8-player elimination. So I gotta put in some work here. But playing against the computer, I feel like I'm comfortably in, like, or at least towards the top of the grid a lot of the time. But for some reason, it's so much more like you just feel so much more pressure during those races, even if you're like top 5 and they're just about to chop off the final 4 out of 24, and you're not even close to being in danger. You're just like, I'm just glancing down in the corner of the screen. Oh yes, I am in the top like 16 or whatever.
Yeah. The little flag in the corner that's like aim for 12th, aim for 8th. I'm like, I'm trying to aim for 1st. Yeah. It's good. There's definitely a different energy, stating the obvious, to playing online versus playing against the CPU. I mean, obviously people are messy and unpredictable and petty in a lot of ways. And like the CPU racers definitely have kind of a script they're sticking to. I was surprised at how often I'm able to get drifts off the CPU players, and it boosts your speed without having to have a pickup, which is really, really nice. I think last week we were playing, I was like, this is the first Mario Kart game where I've really noticed that as a feature, despite it having been in other games. But when you play online, nobody will let you stay behind them long enough to drift off of them. People have eyes in the back of their head and they don't like to be followed. So as soon as you start to hear that kind of whooshing noise that indicates that you're starting to build up a drift, whoever's I'm drifting off of is just zipping off into a different direction or pulling back and trying to bump me or something like that. There's just a lot more of like a chaos randomness factor to the online experience. Whereas the CPU races feel pretty scripted. I'm still struggling to beat the 150cc races in any mode. I'm probably pretty reliable first or second place in 50 or 150. No, what are the two? 50 or 100cc. But I just get trounced every time at 150cc. There's something about that increase that kills me.
Yeah, they really make you work for it in 150. I feel like the knockout tour is far and away the best thing about Mario Kart World. I find I'm not really like the changes they made to the Grand Prix. I don't love. In that,
what specifically? What do you mean? Yeah.
Well, so they still try and force the open world format into the Grand Prix. So instead of doing 3 laps around every course, I think you do like 3 laps around the initial course. And then when the second course starts, you do like one weird like half lap on the previous course. And then there's like a stretch where you drive from the first course to the second one. And then you do 1 lap around the second course.
That sounds right. Yeah.
It's like this weird, like, I feel like it removes, or you just like lose a lot of identity from all the subsequent courses because you're just like not spending as much time on them. And as a result, I have trouble remembering just like what the difference is between all the different cups or courses in the Grand Prix mode.
Yes.
Because it feels like you're just sort of driving through them on the way to the next thing.
I can see that. Absolutely. Yeah.
And like paired right up with the knockout tour mode, where I think it completely makes sense where you're driving through all these different courses because it's like this long like endurance race. It's weird that they decided to change the format in that way. Like I would much prefer if the Grand Prix mode, they just stuck to how it's always been. And you just like appear in the second, third, and fourth courses. You do 3 laps or however many. And then you move on to the next one. You don't have to do the whole transition kind of deal. And then just save the like open world stuff for the Knockout Tour. That would be good. Like, just how about just make the Knockout Tour the flagship mode? Like, put that at the top of the start menu.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that. I find that I wish that I could spend more time on the courses in the Grand Prix. Because like you said, you don't get a full sense of some of the maps that you're doing because you're kind of doing abbreviated versions of them chained together with the previous map. Yeah, that's a little frustrating. Like, I wish it was 3 laps on map 1, drive a little bit to map 2, 3 laps, drive a little. But these are much longer games, obviously, if you're doing that proposition. But I kind of wish that was the case. I don't mind a long game. Like I said about the Knockout, I like that it's a bit of an endurance race. And some of the online matches in the Grand Prix mode are just over so fast that I think there's kind of missed potential there to make it more of a stamina test.
Yeah, it's questionable. And like, I understand the desire for them to like make a big deal about the game being open world and incorporate it into the Grand Prix, but it's just such a much more of a natural fit for Knockout Tour, and it kind of detracts from the Grand Prix. So I wish those modes were a little more sort of separated format-wise. But other than that, though, still pretty fun. Still a very good version of Mario Kart.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That's been my primary play for the last couple of weeks. I've been mostly like trying to knock out some of the cups that I've not done and trying to unlock some of the costumes. And I've been spending a lot of time in free mode, trying to mop up some of the little P-Switch challenges and collect all the Peach coins and all the other fun stuff. Basically the laundry list of Assassin's Creed style collectibles you have to find. Yeah. It's good. It's a good time though. And I'm using the free mode to learn the maps a little bit and how they interconnect. And you and I were talking before recording tonight about finding some shortcuts in free mode and then trying to get there again during the course of a race with 23 other people is tough because you're going so much faster and you don't really have that like high level like cerebral thought about like, this is the point where I need to bank left and take the secret detour. You're just like, go fast, go as fast as possible. So it's a good time. Again, the conversation constantly is like, is it worth $80? Your mileage may vary on whether or not you agree, but it does feel like there's a lot of game in this.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mario Kart. It's sort of just like the evergreen gaming experience. Like, I can't imagine ever getting like completely burned out on it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have the conversation like, is this $80? Is this a $70 game? I don't know. I assume at some point they will. The weird thing about this is that we just played Mario Kart 8 like a few weeks before the Switch came out.
Yeah.
Switch 2 came out, rather. And going from that to Mario Kart World is like, oh, what happened to all those other courses that were just here? Because
it's true. There is a game that has a lot more characters and a lot more maps, right?
Yeah, and as I mentioned when we were talking about Mario Kart 8, I hadn't really played a lot of those DLC courses, and especially the stuff that they brought over from the mobile version. I was like, man, these mobile tracks are actually pretty good. I feel like the mobile version probably got a lot of shade just because it was the mobile version. But it's not like they skimped out on the track design, like. So, I don't know. I'm maybe this is already looking too far ahead, but I'm just like, yeah, I wonder what the first sort of DLC offering of courses for Mario Kart World will be like.
Yeah. It's surprising we don't, but.
Yeah, I mean, the game just came out, so I've probably enough for people for the time being.
What else? So, like you mentioned, we did stream this last week. We had a pretty good turnout from the video game hangover community. It is surprising how many of us were able to get Switch 2s in time to do this. So that was really, really cool. Thanks to everybody who jumped in. We'll definitely do more of that. Me and GD Milkman actually the next night played a bunch more games together. So shout out to him for tracking me down that evening and pulling me into some online matches. But we are going to stream again this coming Monday, June 30th. Not Mario Kart this time. DJ, tell the people what you're going to be playing.
Nope. Oh, it's what everybody's been waiting for. We're going to play Death Stranding 2.
Hey.
Oh, it's going to be good. I hope.
It seems like people seem to be receptive to the previews and stuff like that. So,
oh yeah, no, the preview, the early word has been extremely positive. And let me just be clear, it's easy to make jokes about Death Stranding and anything Hideo Kojima has done, but man, Death Stranding 1, incredible. I thought, I went into it just thinking like, oh, this story is going to be just insufferable. Who wants to play a game about a guy delivering packages? And the answer is, I do. I want to play that game. I want to build delivery infrastructure. I want to rebuild freeways. It was a great, amazing game. The story was insufferable. So I'm a little sort of like, I don't know how much I'm looking forward to that component of Death Stranding too. But I'm like surprisingly excited to get back to delivering packages or whatever you end up doing in this game.
Delivering babies.
Well, I mean, that's a whole, that means something else. I don't think you ever delivered a baby. Or maybe you do. I don't know. I've really not been following the previews for this because sometimes I just can't stand Hideo Kojima. But with that in mind, it'll all be a surprise to me. So look forward to that next Monday.
Cool. So join DJ Monday, June 30th, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Just go to twitch.tv/VGHangover for that. We'll have an invite up on our Discord, too, if you hop in there. Well, you'll get a little friendly reminder on Monday night. I might be able to join and cheer you on, so TBD on that.
Yeah, you got some stuff going on.
Yeah, you'll have DJ checking out. You're going to start from scratch, right? Start from start?
It's going to be a completely fresh playthrough.
Cool.
So, just thinking about how Kojima games start off, maybe we will actually get to play the game after 90 minutes of cutscenes or whatever. We'll see how it goes.
Just 2 hours of exposition.
We'll see how many packages we actually get to deliver during the stream.
Nice. All right. I played a lot of the first Death Stranding and did not care for it.
I can't believe, I remember you played Death Stranding and I couldn't remember why. Why did you play Death Stranding?
Peer pressure.
You're not a Kojima fan.
No, not at all. I think he's a goof. I like his musical taste. I follow him on...
That is not a good reason to play a game.
No, I know. I like him. If that was true, I would play a lot of weird video games. Wait, I do.
Yeah.
No.
But not based on the creator's, playlists.
No, not based on, what, I don't know, what musical recommendations different developers have. But, he comes up with some really fun stuff. And I've picked up a couple interesting bands from his references on social media. So I like that. But I think it was probably peer pressure. I think you were playing it at the time. I think Paul was with us still in that version of Video Game Hangover, and he was excited about it at the time. And I'm like, well, I can't be the only one who doesn't play this game. I like Norman Reedus in general. I'm a fan of his work. Did not see the appeal.
Yeah, it can be tough to get into one of these things.
Especially, I feel like defend it. I don't want to relitigate my take on.
Well, no, I'm not trying to say oh, you should have stuck with it or whatever. Or maybe I am. Maybe that's exactly what I'm saying.
You don't get it, man.
I think you got. Well, so first of all, you have my full permission to just ignore all of the story stuff because that's the stuff that I have the lowest tolerance for. Because I'm fascinated by the way that guy's brain works, but for the longest time, he has just been not especially adept at telling an effective story or telling a good story in an effective way, one of those things. But man, when it comes to the gameplay, just the game design, there are very few other people who make a game quite like him. I've always had an incredible amount of admiration since Metal Gear Solid was really the first thing of his that I played. And since then, it's just been gameplay has always been incredible. The storylines have gotten increasingly kind of sketchy as his career has progressed. But man, a new Kojima game is like an event. You see how this one is?
Yeah. I mean, there are not a lot of auteurs making games at that level. If generally, I'm not saying it's a one person dev thing by any means, but
Right.
like he's clearly like the visionary steering the ship in a way that I think very few people pull off at that scale in gaming. Typically, if you want that level of control over the game you're making, you have to be in indie, I imagine. So the fact that he can do it on these massive big budget games with tons of celebrity guest stars and et cetera, is interesting. Yeah, there's not a lot of like David Lynch's in video gaming. So for him to,
oh, he would be so happy that you mentioned David Lynch in the same sentence.
Or Benicio del Toro's, or
like
Guillermo. Sorry, Benicio's a different person.
Or Benicio, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe he'll show up. He's
an auteur. Or Wes Anderson's, or there's a lot of them in film. There's fewer of them in big budget AAA gaming. So it's cool that he's able to be that person still. It doesn't mean they're good. I mean, David Lynch made bad movies. Wes Anderson's is like 50-50. So
can you imagine if Wes Anderson made a game? How just intolerable that would be.
I'm sure. Yeah, I cannot. No, I mean I don't know how far into this rabbit hole I want to explore this, but like Asteroid City was basically a video game,
okay,
and not a very good one.
But full disclosure, I love Wes Anderson. I can't imagine I would enjoy playing a game that he made for more than like 10 seconds. It would be the worst.
I'm interested in all of Wes Anderson's stuff, but like I said, it is like about half of them I enjoy. And sometimes, that was a lot of pretentious bullshit.
Yeah.
And even the ones that I like are a lot of pretentious bullshit, but
that's kind of his thing.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway,
and
so
you don't like Kojima? That's like, man, maybe you should play Death Stranding too.
I appreciate Kojima. I'm glad he exists. I like living in a world that he also lives in.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. You must have seen this headline going around where, what was the quote? It was like, he had to change Death Stranding because it was too good or something like that. Which, like, as a headline, it sounds incredibly pretentious, like you're saying. But the actual story behind it is, I think he was playtesting Death Stranding 2, and people were just like, I don't know, they're just like enjoying it too much. That sounds weird, but immediately they're just like, oh yeah, I love this. This is the sort of thing I love to do in a video game. And I think I should have this article in front of me as I'm trying to relate what was happening. But basically his thing was, in his games, he likes to sort of like create more friction for the player and make them do things that they don't necessarily think they enjoy. Because by doing that is how, you tend to have like a more memorable experience, and that's how you have that's how you end up coming away from an experience actually like really loving something, which I'm sure I just like completely mangled his words. But I was like, after I read that, I was like, you know what, I totally respect that actually sounds very sensible. But I think, you've probably heard similar things where it's like, you don't want to just take feedback from people, like, especially like gamers, if they say like, oh, you should make a game like this. Oh, I'd like your game better if it had this, or if it did this differently. Like, you don't just want to take all their feedback as design notes and like make that the direction of your game, because sometimes people think they know what they want, but they don't actually really know what they will enjoy, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And I think there's also a bit of a trap of like getting feedback from people who are already sort of predisposed to like your shit. So I think like, nobody's a worse critic of a band's later output than the biggest fans, because they're like, oh, the early stuff was good. The first record was the best, et cetera, et cetera. Like, yeah, because it was made without this feedback. It was made without the pressure to tour and the pressure to fill seats. And it was just, in a lot of ways, kind of this like pure, realization of your artistic output at that point. But later albums, later movies, later video games are all influenced by the people who love those things and have different expectations of what your future output should be like.
Yeah, so I think like I feel like if you polled a bunch of gamers and asked them like, oh, what do you want out of Death Stranding 2? or pick any game where they've got a sequel in development. They would just go, oh, I just want it to be like that other game. Just make more of that game. Just give me a DLC episode or whatever for that game. And I feel like that's not the kind of sequel Kojima wants to make.
Yeah.
So, big respect for that.
Yeah, good on him for not falling into that trap.
Even if it resulted in this ridiculous headline circulating, where it's like, I had to make the game worse. It was too good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool.
Death Stranding 2 next week.
Yeah.
Going to be good. Probably.
Be there.
Maybe.
I think honestly the only way that I'm going to experience is watching you play it. So I probably should make sure I have a chance to check it out.
Should I stream the whole thing? It's been a long time since I did a full playthrough on stream.
I don't know if I could stay up that late.
Oh, I mean, not all on Monday, but there have been games where, every time I sat down to play it, I would put it on the stream.
Yeah. Death
Stranding is, I feel like, I don't know, maybe people would be really hyped up to watch infrastructure building. Putting up a new zip line and all that.
Yeah. Is there a lot of that in the second one? You probably don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I said that, and I was like, oh, I hope there are zip lines in the second one. Maybe we'll see. Here's the thing. Maybe there's something better than a zip line that I don't know about. Don't ask me if there should be zip lines in the new one.
We were promised jetpacks.
Do I want a jetpack? I don't know.
I mean, I always want a jetpack.
I trust in Kojima. He'll have some weird solution for me.
What else have we been playing that is out already? I've been playing my sort of like Mario Kart World, play this with batteries or dying, or play this while I'm waiting to get into matches, has been this game called Dungeon Clawler.
I played some of this.
Did you? Oh, cool. It's really fun, right? I'm into it. Are you into it?
Oh, I thought it was awful.
Really?
I mean, okay, so it wasn't awful. It was just right in the middle of the spectrum of being fun and bad, which I feel like is the worst place your game can end up.
Yeah. All right.
Because then it's just not interesting.
All right. I'm going to ask you to defend that in a minute, but for the sake of our listeners, this is
yeah, no, I don't mean to bring it down. Let's talk about the game.
This is a kind of a rogue light, I guess, a Slay the Spire style. Instead of it being a collectible card game, you're using a claw machine to pick up weapons and armor and things like that to use on your run. You're a little bunny rabbit who has a gambling problem. You've lost your lucky rabbit's foot, which also just happens to be your foot. A little dark.
So every time you start the game, there is a cutscene of the little rabbit's hand getting severed.
Yes. Yep.
Which is skippable. But man, what a dark way to just launch your game every single time.
It's a little sadistic that it makes you watch it every time. Yeah. Yes, also got very good at skipping that, so I don't have to watch him get his arm chopped off every time. But you're trying to get it back. The final boss is the Mafia Don.
You got the arm back. That's good.
Yeah. Trying to, anyways. And so you're kind of working your way through a maze. Each maze has different stops along the way that allow you to increase your health or add things to your claw machine, upgrade weapons and pickups and things like that. And then you have encounters with enemies where it's turn-based. You do a couple of runs in the claw and you try to pick up different armor. When you know the enemy's going to attack, you try to pick up different weapons when it's your turn to attack. Sometimes you get one or two things. Sometimes you get nothing because it is a claw machine. Sometimes you don't always get the thing that you want, again, because it is a claw machine. So there's a little bit of randomness to it. There's a bunch of other little factors that kind of influence different conditions in the game. Little collectibles you can pick up that increase your health, increase your defense, make it more likely that you pick up certain things. You can get little upgrades for the claw machine, like magnets that attract things that are made of metal. Enemies can use things against you that fill the claw machine full of water. So all the wooden things will float and all the metal things will sink, and it makes it harder to get certain things that you want. I think it's fun. I think there's enough little kind of variation and weirdness to it to build on my love for this kind of pattern and this kind of rhythm from a Slay the Spire type of game, in a way that feels a little more, of its own individual identity. So yeah, I've been playing quite a bit of it. It's actually bought it on Steam and playing it on my Steam Deck. And then I read somewhere that it's also on Android. So I also bought it on Android, and I have it on my phone, and have been bouncing back and forth between the two versions for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I picked up on iOS because I desperately need something to play on my phone that is not Slay the Spire. Because otherwise I just end up playing that.
Yeah. Which sounds like maybe that's the way to go then from your perspective.
I should just be playing Slay the Spire?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always fine with that. I'm just like worried that I'm going to burn myself out on it before the sequel comes out.
Right.
Or maybe the sequel will come out just in time. I don't know.
Yeah. And then you can burn yourself out on the sequel.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I want to be like, I don't want to be too tired of it when the sequel comes out. But anyway, that's a different issue. No, I didn't really care for it. I felt like, and this is an issue I have with a lot of sort of the roguelike, whatever the classification is.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes, like, I felt like the core sort of gameplay, the claw machine is interesting, being able to pick or sort of like aim for different items, and there is kind of a unique spin on, like, for better or for worse, sort of like Slay the Spire, like deck building, decision making.
Kind of randomness, RNGs, right?
Yeah. Because you're like, a lot of the time you're like maybe 80% sure of what you're actually going to pull out of the machine. But I just felt like, and I played other roguelikes like this, it is balanced in a way where it doesn't really matter what you do for like the first hour of each run, because the stakes are so low. Like at one point I just stopped sort of deliberately aiming the claw on the claw machine. I was just like, oh, just pick up whatever comes up. And that seemed to be a completely viable strategy.
Oh,
like
really?
I was just rolling over any enemy that was in there. And it just gets to the point where it's like, okay, so is like the first hour, and I assume it would speed up as I went through subsequent runs, but like, is the first hour of each run just going to be sort of like a mindless slog? Like, it's fun to play a claw machine. It's fun to like see what you're going to get, see what the claw is going to come back with. But it wasn't a very engaging game to me. The thing that it most reminded me of was that game Enter the Gungeon. I felt like after just a few runs through the first sort of floor of the dungeon was so trivial that I'm just like, okay, you could easily just cut this part of the game out. The game could be like 3/4 as long. Just get to the more interesting stuff right away.
I could see that. I think I liked that churn a little more than you did. Well, clearly a lot more than you did in the beginning. I could see that though, because there's nothing kind of low stakes about kind of the early rooms in Slay the Spire. I've had a lot of wipeouts in Slay the Spire, like on the third or fourth stop on the map.
Yeah.
And there's nothing in Dungeon Clawler that feels quite that intense ever. In fact, I've had a lot more runs in Dungeon Clawler where I get to the final boss's kind of dungeon, and ultimately kind of wash out there than I ever have with kind of Ascensions and Slay the Spire. So, yeah, I definitely think it's easier to get far in Dungeon Clawler than it is in Slay the Spire. But I 6 of one, half dozen of another. Both of them I find sort of satisfying. But there definitely does seem to be a little more kind of surprising stakes to a Slay the Spire game than Dungeon Clawler.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe they just like bump up all the numbers by 10 or something. Like, I don't know how to design a video game, but like just make it so those initial few rooms are much more interesting. Or I sort of like understand the impact of the things that or the decisions that I'm making, like the different sort of perks you get after clearing each room or beating a boss.
Yeah, I do feel like there is a point in Dungeon Clawler. Early on, there's not a lot of stuff in the claw machine. And this is a little bit like Slay the Spire as well, is that your early deck in Slay the Spire does not have a ton of cards in it. But the further you kind of climb, the more and more cards, and the more you need to start being smart about kind of how you curate your deck. And I found that there's a curve in Dungeon Clawler that is a version of that as well. At some point, there's so much in the claw machine that it makes it harder to get the things that you really want to pull out of it. Or they get buried under things that are less useful, or old shields that no longer do as much sort of protection as you need them to do later in the game. So you, again, similar to, again, Slay the Spire, need to be smart about like curating and cutting things out and throwing things away. Yeah, but you don't necessarily feel that pressure early on. It definitely comes much later in the game, where I'm like, there's this like an eye patch that you can get that allows you to like target a specific enemy and it does triple the damage or something like that. If you upgrade it, it does 100% likelihood of a bonus shot or something like that. It's really worth getting, but it's a tiny little eye patch in the giant claw machine. And at some point it's buried under like 40 swords and 15 shields and a bunch of other crap. And I'm like, I really need to have less garbage in here so I can just keep getting the good thing that I need later in the game. Yeah, and that's a strategy that works for Slay the Spire too. You do have to start throwing things away later on. Otherwise, your hand is just full of crap that was useful early in the game is not so much anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I could feel that it was sort of building in that direction because it keeps asking you to unlock things and like add things to the claw machine. But for some reason, I just like the claw machine gameplay itself was not especially interesting. Because, I mean, it really is just pulling stuff out of a claw machine.
It's true. Yeah. Yep, I agree.
It's like a pachinko game or something where just like, I was going to say, it's like, that's kind of how Peggle was, right? But there, you had a little more agency in Peggle.
Yeah.
Or did you? You were just aiming that thing, right?
You could steer a little bit sometimes in Peggle, yeah.
Yeah.
There was like, the aftertouch thing where you could kind of steer the ball sometimes, and it made you feel like you were controlling it.
Yeah.
Plus, the part of the appeal of Peggle was just the fireworks show, right? Of all the lights flashing and crazy things happening during the course of a game.
Yeah, they really understood how to like bump up the drama of watching the little ball kind of bounce around.
Yeah, randomly drop
is there a Peggle roguelike? That seems like that could be a thing.
I don't know.
Was Peggle already a roguelike? Not really. I don't know.
Copyright that, DJ. Write it down.
Yeah, I'll start making it right now. I know how to make a video game.
Yep, we'll stream it on Monday.
Okay. Well, I got some work to do.
You got a week. How hard is it to make a game?
Yeah, you just like ask an AI to do it now, right?
Yeah, that's sadly probably true.
Oh, that's what everybody on the Final Fantasy forums says.
All right, so
but anyway, I'm glad there's more to it apparently than I was getting into. I just didn't have I didn't feel like playing hours and hours more of just claw machine.
No, I mean you got highways you have to build.
That's true. Yeah, I got to get back in shape or whatever. Like I probably should spend some time reading the Death Stranding wiki just so I can remember everything that happened. So that's going to be some homework.
Yep. So listeners, your mileage may vary on this. Clearly, DJ and I quite split. But this is called Dungeon Clawler. Like I said, it's on Steam. It's $10 on Steam. If you play it on iOS or Android, it's only $5. And you get the whole game for that. There's no ads or any of the crazy nonsense you have to do in mobile games. Sometimes for $5, you get the entire game, which is nice.
Yeah.
So if
you should just play it, don't listen to me. I don't like video games.
If any of this sounds interesting, maybe check it out.
I do still need a new roguelike though. What's it going to be?
I mean, I've played.
Don't answer right away.
I've played a lot of versions of Slay the Spire over the years, and none of them are as good as Slay. So if you're chasing that dragon,
that's the problem. Every time I'm just like, well, this isn't as good as this game I already have. So let's go play that thing.
Yeah, just play this Slay the Spire. Yeah, which I'm sure is a lot of the source of a lot of internal turmoil in making the sequel to Slay the Spire.
I have full confidence in those guys.
Yeah.
For some reason, just the fact that like they've shown almost nothing of it just makes me feel like they are also just fully confident that it's going to hit. But I don't know. Have they made any other games before Slay the Spire? I'm not really familiar with that team. Sorry, we're talking about Slay the Spire again. We don't have to talk about this right now.
Are we on that
this
again?
This is all hypothetical anyway.
That's Megacrit, right? I don't know if they've done other games. Nope. Their wiki says Slay the Spire and Slay the Spire 2.
All right, well.
Wow. Imagine Slay the Spire is your first video game.
I think, I would just be done at that point.
Yeah, right. Just do the Philfish Fez thing and just retire on top. Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's one of those games where you, does it even need a sequel? Not really.
Yeah.
The first one's so good. What are you going to do to improve upon it?
Yeah. I Googled what are some good games like Slay the Spire, and it recommends Slay the Spire 2.
Good luck with that.
Good job, Google. Monster Train. People seem to like that. I've heard that's good.
I've heard a lot of good things about Monster Train. Maybe I should play that. Maybe I should play... What's the one you played where you were like in a spaceship with the furries?
What was that called? Into the Breach?
I should play that one once we remember. Wait,
nope.
What?
No, Into the Breach is a different thing.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Well, I'll play that one, whatever that one is.
That was a good game. That was probably the closest to Slay the Spire, but I don't remember the name of it. Sorry.
I'll figure it out.
I am a professional podcaster.
Well, I mean, you probably talked about it a year ago. So.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. What have you been playing, DJ? What games have you been playing that you like?
Speaking of games that don't need sequels because they're too good, I've been playing, among other things, on the Switch GameCube thing, a lot of F-ZERO GX, which probably the best racing game ever made. So I'm maybe a little biased because I've spent a lot of time with this game. I do feel like it is probably my favorite racing game. Excite Truck, close second, but I feel like F-ZERO GX is probably, I don't know, probably like overall the better designed of the two. I take it from talking about F-Zero 99 earlier, you've not played a lot of F-Zero GX.
No, F-Zero 99 is the first and only time I've played anything F-Zero related.
Yeah, there's not a lot of F-Zero options at this point. Although I was so excited to see that, first of all, they're going to have GameCube games on the Switch too. And that F-Zero GX was going to be one of them. Like, that's kind of mind-blowing that they picked, out of the 3 games that it launched with, they picked F-Zero GX to be one of them.
Oh, what's the third game? It's F-Zero, Wind Waker, and what's the third one?
And Soul Calibur 2.
Oh, I forgot about Soul Calibur. All right, good call.
2 incredibly, I don't want to say niche because, the GameCube was a different era, but incredibly enthusiast picks for, Nintendo, the family-friendly console maker. But anyway, F-Zero GX, originally a GameCube game, the latest, or I guess the most recent version of the series until F-Zero 99, which was more or less just a repackaging of the original Super Nintendo version. But it's you kind of know the deal, right? It's like a futuristic racing game. Mm-hmm. It's super fast because all the machines go I think it's in kilometers per hour. It's several thousand kilometers per hour if you max out your engine or whatever. But it is just a no-nonsense, super hardcore arcade racer. It's something I feel like I wasn't getting from Mario Kart, which I understand is not really a racing game. Like a kart racer is a totally different genre. But F-Zero GX does such a great job of just creating an accessible sort of arcade racing experience. It's not super or it's not overly complicated or technical like something like Forza or Gran Turismo, but it's something you can just hop in and pick up. You can understand how to steer your machine around the track and just do some arcade races.
It's very fast, right? That's sort of my understanding of it. It's like Sonic fast in a lot of ways. Yeah,
it's extremely fast. Yeah. Although F-Zero GX, I mean, it's always been sort of the thesis of the series. It's this is going to be faster than any other racing game. But F-Zero GX is the first time I feel like it really delivered on just feeling almost unmanageably fast. You just it wasn't going to have one on the Super Nintendo, as cool as that system was and the technology was at the time. I think F-Zero X got a lot closer on the N64 because it was in 3D and it was much more immersive. But man, F-Zero GX, it's just the sense of speed is unbelievable. It's kind of miraculous, playing some of these tracks and just trying to steer your machine down these narrow courses without bouncing off the walls too much and kind of threading between all the other racers on the track. It's kind of incomprehensible that you can manage to control your car at all while all this is going on. And like I said, it's going at several thousand kilometers per hour. The other thing I really like about it is that it is just uncompromising in how like difficult it is, I guess. I think the difficulty curve is actually very well designed because like the first slate of courses, or the first engine class, I guess, which would be the equivalent of like 50cc or whatever in Mario Kart, is a fine level of difficulty for just anybody who wants to play a racing game. It starts out super manageable. By the time you get to the end of like the first 3 or 4 cups, I guess, it's getting like pretty difficult. You have to like work for it a little more. But then as soon as you start unlocking the higher tiers of difficulty, the difficulty just like ramps up exponentially. So they really deliver an experience for people who have like mastered the previous tiers and are, looking for like an extremely challenging racing game, which is super satisfying. Like, it was a weird thing to sort of stumble into this because I never thought of F-Zero as something or like a series that was especially difficult. Maybe because, it's not that they weren't difficult, but I would always sort of like tap out after a certain number of races. Like, I was very content to stay in those earlier tiers. But in F-Zero GX, I was just so into this when it was on GameCube. It's like, oh yeah, maybe I would be into playing, this super hardcore level of this game and just seeing if I can like compete at all in like the expert level races. But that's why I say I feel like it's one of the best designed racing games where it's very sort of accommodating when you start out. Like, anybody can enjoy the first few cups of F-Zero GX, but there really is just so much depth, and I want to keep saying difficulty, but there's just more on offer for people who want to go beyond just the starting races. Like, you can spend a lot of time just sort of mastering this game if you really decide to.
Yeah, I think definitely the sort of the reputation, or at least my sort of understanding of the reputation of the game, it must be those later challenges then, because everything I've kind of heard about the series over years is that it's kind of impossibly fast and more difficult than the average kind of Nintendo challenge. This is not Mario Kart.
Yeah. Probably worth mentioning that it was a collaboration between Nintendo and Sega. I think it was, which team at Sega was it? It was the team that ended up actually becoming the Yakuza team. I think it was actually the same guy producing. It was Nagoshi or whoever. But I think that's where a lot of the credit goes, is like Sega was making crazy racing games or just like arcade experiences back then. And I forget exactly what the story was. They brought Sega on to like try and figure out what they could do with F-Zero. And they just decided like, okay, here's our vision for like an incredibly like, I don't want to say technical, but just, again, an uncompromising racing game. And that's basically what they delivered. And I think that every component of it is designed so well. It's like the courses are so good. They're like super creative. A lot of them have these incredibly outlandish designs that only feel possible in sort of a futuristic fantasy racing setting. Like, you get a lot of weird tracks with like half pipes and like jumps and ramps. And there's this one that basically takes place on the outside of the cylinder. So it's like this 360-degree track that you're sort of racing around. It's really interesting and really creative. But just every piece of this feels like it's designed so well. I feel like it would be difficult to justify a sequel to this, because like they just delivered in every aspect when they were making F-Zero GX. It's like Slay the Spire. Like, what can you do in Slay the Spire 2 that is notable, or is like a notable improvement over Slay the Spire 1? It's the same with F-Zero. I'm not sure where else they could take it that they didn't already accomplish in F-Zero GX.
Cool. So how are you approaching, or I presume replaying this on the GameCube what you call it, virtual console, and just starting from scratch and working your way up through the difficulties again?
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, I can't just import my GameCube memory card, which has my old save file on it, because I certainly would.
You said it unlocks them as you progress through them, so you do have to unlock them again.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, oh man, I really like went through a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears unlocking some of the stuff on the GameCube. I wish I could just have some of that already, but now you have to start out with a fresh save file. I just been sort of going through all the old cups. Got my GameCube controller that I ordered with the Switch, which is actually like GameCube controller is fun. F-ZERO GX is one of the few games where I feel like it actually makes a big difference having it, because if you remember on the GameCube, the triggers were analog, and they actually had like if you held them down or you pushed them in far enough, there was like another little click, like if you pushed them in all the way, which the Switch 2 does not have at all. They're not analog triggers. And you would use those for like fine control over your machine, like drifting left and right. So I actually haven't tried it with just the Joy-Cons. And I don't know how much that affects the experience. Maybe it's only for maybe it's more of a high-end feature. So if you're just doing the basic races, it's not as important. But it's a sort of like a facet of the controls that's just not possible with the Switch Joy-Cons. It's kind of weird. But other than that, like the experience on the GameCube like emulator app or whatever has been pretty good. I've read a lot of people posting online about there's a level of like input lag, which I guess is expected. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from Nintendo in terms of like how technically sound their emulators are for these Switch things or the classic console things. But it's not something I guess I'm not like super sensitive to it, or I just sort of chalked it up to, okay, so I haven't played this game for 20 years. Probably not going to be as good as I was back then. So I don't know, any sort of like slower reactions or like decreased ability, I was just assuming like, oh, that's on me. It's not on the emulator. But I totally buy that there's some sort of input lag going on. Man, I spent some time with Wind Waker on the GameCube app, and that game has some issues. I don't know what's going on with that game.
I played the first half hour, 45 minutes of that, and it seemed fine. What were the issues? Fine? Yeah, I didn't get terribly far, obviously, but what were some of the things that you noticed?
There's so in even before you start the game, in the menu, if you click the D-pad to select a different menu option, there's a half second of delay.
Oh.
Which is ooh. It's definitely not that severe in F-Zero, or at least it's not that apparent. And also I was trying to think maybe it was just that laggy on the GameCube. I don't remember exactly. I don't remember how the Wind Waker experience was. But I've heard a lot of people are saying it's especially bad in Wind Waker.
Oh. Yeah, I definitely didn't notice that, but that's interesting. I'll have to go back to it with that in mind.
I didn't spend a lot more time with Wind Waker. I just sort of walked to Link's grandma's house, and that was about it. I just wanted to see if it was as bad as people were saying. But in general, I've been impressed that it's fairly smooth playing F-Zero on the Switch 2. F-Zero, again, interesting choice. It's been a game that I've tried to emulate a few times on my computer and also on my Odin Android handheld. It was a GameCube emulator, and it ran okay. GameCube is kind of it's not the easiest console to emulate, sort of specs wise. But in F-Zero in particular, there's this desert course, which has this, I think it's kind of like a heat haze effect on the background. You see the waves coming off the sand in the background. And for whatever reason, that would just tank any emulator I tried to play this on. And it doesn't do that on the Switch 2. It's totally fine. So I don't know if maybe the Switch 2 is just that powerful, or maybe they have tweaked the game in some way to counteract that. I don't know. But really no experience or no poor experiences due to anything I can blame on the emulator. playing F-Zero. So that has been a very pleasant
Cool.
surprise. It's kind of mind-blowing that now there's just like a handheld version of this game that you can play anywhere.
Have you, not to continue to stump for F-Zero 99, but have you tried F-Zero 99?
I did, yeah. I played, I think I did one game of it online, and I was just like, this is too many people. And of course, like, there's just way too much going on. It like turned into Mario Kart Wii, where it's just like, okay, this is, it's just it may as well just be a pachinko game at this point. Like, who knows who's going to win? I did like that it was just essentially a new port of the Super NES version, though. Because, I mean, it's so different from F-Zero GX and F-Zero X, even, that it's just fun to have sort of a modern version of it. I think they added a mode where you could play with, like, just 4 people, or maybe just do a time trial mode, which maybe I should spend a little more time with that. But I like the 99 online or 99 player online mode did not really hold my interest.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a whole different energy, obviously. It was the only experience I had with it, and I was wondering if it scratched that itch for you at all.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the original F-Zero is the other thing. It was fun, but, it's a completely different experience from, like, the GameCube version.
Yeah.
It's like, going back and playing the Super NES Mario Kart compared to Mario Kart World.
Well, cool. I had thought maybe I wanted to attempt to play Wind Waker again, because it's been a while now, but I think I still would rather just have the HD version. I mean, I have it on the Wii U. I could dust off the Wii U and play it there, but I'm still continuing to hold out hope that will come to the Switch 2 now at some point.
Yeah, I still really prefer the visuals in the original GameCube version, but just with, based on the small amount of time I played in the emulated one, I think it was fine, even with the whatever input lag was there. The thing that was a big hang up for me is that it was in that era of 3D games where, like, the analog stick, or like the camera stick, it was like a 50-50 shot of whether they would turn the camera one way or the other. Or what's a better way of saying that? Like, it doesn't let you invert the camera controls, basically. You just have to stick with how they set it up, and they have it flipped to how I prefer it. So I was just thinking, like, oh, this is going to be a struggle if I end up playing Wind Waker through this thing. Or maybe you can remap it. I know you can, like, you have some control remapping options in the GameCube app. I don't know if you can fix the analog direction with that, but it should be worth a try.
I don't have a lot of experience with the Virtual Console emulators on the Switch and now the Switch 2. But I thought the limited amount of time that I spent with Wind Waker on this seemed a little obnoxious in that it always had, obviously you get the left and right bars, which I expect on old video games. But it always has your player icon in the top left-hand corner. And I'm like, how do I turn that off? You can't. At least not in a way that I could find. Yeah. And there were little guides showing you what the controls did. And I couldn't figure out how to turn that off either. I'm like, this is a lot of information on this screen. I just want to look at Wind Waker.
You can definitely turn the controls off.
Can you?
But I think there's an option for that. I think before you start the game, there's like an app menu. But yeah, the little player avatar thing is there the whole time. Unless actually in F-Zero, and I think Soul Calibur too, those both have widescreen modes.
Oh.
Which also eliminate the black border. So I think it covers up the avatar as well.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping Wind Waker would have that, because that would be nice. But again, like when it was just like in that era of games, you go to the options menu, and I think there are like 3 options on it. And none of them are widescreen or invert analog stick.
Yeah.
So
accessibility, not really a priority.
Yeah.
Cool.
But like overall, I've had a pretty good experience. I mean, not just with this GameCube app, but with all of the Nintendo online apps, like the classic console apps. I feel like they've been pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've definitely spent more time with it than I have, but you have more patience for old games than I have.
Yeah.
But
these are not even that old anymore. Come on. I mean, they are old, but I feel like they've aged better than, like Zelda 1, for instance.
I played almost all of, I think, or maybe all of one of the Paper Mario games that came to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably my most significant time sink on anything on here. Everything else has just been a bit of an oddity or a little online session of Perfect Dark or something like that.
Man, it's rough playing the N64 app, Perfect Dark, when that Xbox remastered version exists.
Yeah, the Xbox one's a good one, absolutely.
Yeah. I've heard, though, that like when the N64 app for the Switch 1 launched, it was not in great shape. Or, eventually they like updated it and it works a lot better now. And people were saying, if you're having problems with GameCube games currently, there will probably be like a similar update in the future. Or, I mean, like again, it just came out like a month ago.
Right.
So I expect them to be working on improvements. So I'm like optimistic about that. Still, I feel like it works pretty well at this point. It plays F-ZERO extremely well, so I'm satisfied.
Cool. What's on your short list of must-have GameCube games for future updates?
I honestly like F-ZERO and Soul Calibur. That was it.
That's your list, yeah.
What else do I want to play though? I think I'm just looking at my shelf. What GameCube games do I have? I know Luigi's Mansion is on the list. I mean, they've already announced that, I think. So I'll probably do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's playable on the Switch already, so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you have like the remastered version.
Right.
Are there big GameCube games that I didn't play when they came out? I don't know.
I don't know either. Double
I
Dash.
feel like I played all of them. Yeah, I don't need Double Dash. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
Metroid? They never did like an update to Prime 2 and 3. Oh, Prime 3 wasn't a GameCube game, but Metroid Prime? That seems like they probably wouldn't throw that on there when they're trying to sell that remastered version.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to keep updating those Metroid Prime games. Because that first one came out really good, but no signs of 2 or 3.
I heard they were already done. Somebody was like, oh yeah, they're just like not uploading them yet or whatever.
Get on it.
It's tricky because it's probably like, did they ever put any non-first party games on the other virtual console apps? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, I know there's the Sega Genesis app, but
oh yeah.
I don't think there's any like other publishers in the Nintendo app.
Yeah. So I'm just again just staring at my shelf. I feel like I did first of all, I just did not have a lot of GameCube games, and a lot of the first party ones that I would want to play, I've like either already played or I don't need them on this virtual console thing. Yeah. I never played the Star Fox GameCube game. That would be one. That's one of them. I don't know if that's supposed to be good, but I didn't play it, so now's the time.
Yeah, I did not have a ton of games for my GameCube either. Luigi's Mansion and the other. What's the other one we just talked about?
Double Dash.
Double Dash, yeah. I don't know that I had much else. I remember having a game or borrowing a game from a friend called Geist. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
Where you could
Geist. I never played that one.
You could possess other living things and play the game from their perspective briefly, and it was like a stealth game. Yeah. You could like possess a rat and crawl through the walls to be able to get to the other side of some obstacle. It was really neat. It was fun.
That was the game where they were like, "Look, we're making like mature games for gamers."
On the GameCube.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Perfect Dark Zero. I remember playing that on the GameCube. That looked really good.
No, that was an Xbox game, right?
Oh. No, I think it was a GameCube game.
I don't think so. I think that was a 360 game, wasn't it?
Oh, not Perfect Dark. Resident Evil 0.
Oh. Was that good? I've not heard a lot of good things about that game.
I think I remember liking it back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd play Resident Evil 4 if they're going to put Capcom stuff on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have Resident Evil 4. I have so many copies of Resident Evil 4.
We're legally obligated to put Resident Evil 4 on everything. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they might as well at this point. But yeah, I think like I'm kind of covered as far as GameCube games go.
Yeah.
Just Star Fox. They just re-released that 1,000 Year Door, so they don't need to do that.
Nope.
Well,
it was the Zelda Master Collection. Get that on there. Is that what that was called?
Yeah, the Ocarina of Time collection.
Yeah, that's it.
That's actually interesting because that had some unique, like, they had the second quest in Ocarina of Time, didn't it?
Yes, there's stuff on that game for the GameCube that you still can't play anywhere else, as far as I know.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
What else though? I don't know.
All right, well, think about it. We'll start our campaign to send postcards to Nintendo.
I'm sure there's a bunch of weird stuff, but I feel like they've already announced there's a Fire Emblem game that they're going to add at some point. I'll have to go remind myself what else was in the GameCube library.
All right, I'll ask you again next time.
Okay, all right. Then I'll have my whole list. I can just spend the whole episode reading it off.
Excellent. All right. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Blue Sky. Just look for VGHangover.com. You can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join us on our Discord. You can hang out with us and chat about video games. We'll be talking about right now, there's a lot of conversation about Tunic. People are very into Tunic right now. It's a very hard game that I got nowhere near the end of. But a lot of people in our community have finished. What else? We were talking about writing a perfect resume, which is not gamer related, but some of us were looking for jobs.
Still helpful information.
Yeah, totally. Useful life resources on the Video Game Hangover Discord. But yeah, get in there. Tell DJ what GameCube games you should play on the Virtual Console.
Well, now I just found somebody's post that has all these games on it.
Yeah.
Do we want to do this right now? No, I'll do this now. Do this next time.
I'm already doing the outro. There's no way back.
Yeah, no, we can't. Yeah, we're already here.
And we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. And maybe hook us up with a referral to one of your friends. Tell them about the show and how much you enjoy listening to us. Hopefully that's true.
Tell them how much you want to play the original Animal Crossing on GameCube. What? No. We really appreciate if you tell your friends about the show. It helps us bring in new listeners.
Yeah.
Great way to get the word out about the show. That would be great. What else would be great? It would also be great if you went to, doing this out of order again, if you went to spellmynameWithABang.bandcamp.com, that's RJ Lake's Bandcamp.
Yep.
He did the intro and outro music for our episode this week.
Correct.
This is a disaster. You should still go to that website though. Again, that's spellmynameWithABang.bandcamp.com. Download all of those songs.
We'll be back on Monday night where DJ will be streaming Death Stranding 2 at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Go to twitch.tv/VGHangover for that. And then back in your feed a week later with a whole new episode of the podcast. Until then, thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover and have a lovely evening. Good night.
Good night.
Or a good day if it's not evening, wherever you're listening to this.
Good day, sir.
Good. I said good day.